All right, good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety, Civil Rights, and Emergency Management Committee meeting. Today is June 7th, 2017. My name is Belong Yang. I'm the chair of this committee. With me today are Council members Reich, Quincy, and Council President Johnson. We are a quorum of this committee, and we can conduct the business of this committee. I want to first note that Council members Palmisano and Gordon will not be joining us today. They have family obligations that they are attending to, and despite that, we do have a quorum, and so we can conduct the business of this committee. Today, on our agenda, we have 6 items. 3 of them are consent items, and 3 of them are discussion items. The first 3 consent items are a contract amendment with automated pawn system for continued pawn shop transaction report storage and monitoring. Second item is a contract amendment with Advanced Public Safety, Inc. for electronic citation writer maintenance and support. Third item is a contract with the Minneapolis Public Schools for school resource officers. Fourth item, discussion items now, are the fourth item, 2017 first quarter report of the Contract Compliance Division of the Civil Rights Department. And then the last 2 items are contracts with Pillsbury United and area partners for West Broadway Collaborative Public Safety Strategies, and a contract with Native American Community Development Institute, Little Earth, and surrounding area partners for collaborative public safety strategies. So with that, I will address the first 3 items, which are the consent items. Council members, anyone want to pull anything off for discussion? All right, seeing none, I will just make a short comment about item number 3, which is the contract with the Minneapolis Public Schools for school resource officers. And this is specifically just for the summer months, to cover the summer months. It's not the full contract. The full contract will probably come out in the next month or 2, and that will be, the full contract for the entire school year. And so just wanted to point that out for folks. Outside of that, it's relatively small amounts, about $20,000 just to get us through the summer. So that's about it. Okay. Seeing that no one wanted to pull anything off the agenda items, I will move all 3 consent items for approval. Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. The fourth item, which is the discussion item, the first discussion item is the 2017 first quarter report. And Sean Skibby, you're up, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council members, my name is Sean Skibby. I'm the Contract Compliance Division Director here in the Minneapolis Department of Civil Rights. Contract Compliance Division monitors City of Minneapolis projects and contracts to ensure that minority, women, and low-income business owners and workers have access to contracting and employment opportunities, and that workers are paid the correct wages on city projects. I'm here today to present the Division's quarterly report for the first quarter of 2017, running from January to March 31st of this year. So on this slide, I'm going to start with the city's small and underutilized business programs and our outcomes for the first quarter, which of course is the city's primary minority and women business inclusion program. During this quarter, the division reviewed 39 contracts for SUBP goal setting and set goals on 20 of these contracts. Also during the first quarter, the division completed 9 pre-award reviews. Of these 9 reviews, 4 of the bidders committed to meeting the goal, and 5 bidders sought award of the contract through a demonstration of good faith efforts. And of those 5 that sought award on good faith efforts, the division accepted 3 of those and rejected 2. And then one of those 2 rejected firms requested a reconsideration meeting, at which point the division's determination was upheld. The division also processes applications for certifications in its role as a certifying member agency with the Minnesota Unified Certification Program. And in the first quarter of 2017, the division certified 6 new firms. There are now a total of 550 certified firms in the city's SUBP marketplace, and that includes 127 that are based within the city of Minneapolis. On this slide, you see a comparison here of the participation that the division has reported on closed projects since 2014. For the first quarter, there was 8% participation for MBE firms and 7% participation for WBE certified firms. Both of these percentages actually constitute an increase over 2016's percentages, so it is early, but these numbers show an increase over last year and some positive early outcomes. These also match the average participation level since 2014, so over that 3.25-year period, it matches those numbers. These numbers are derived from the 12 contracts that had SUBP goals that the division closed during the first quarter. And those 12 contracts total about $63 million. So doing the math, you get to $4.8 million that went to MBE firms and $4.3 million that went to women-owned firms. So that's a summary of the SUBP program's performance. Now I want to shift gears from small business to talk about workforce inclusion. As you all probably know, the city follows the goals established by the Minnesota Department of Human Rights for the Twin Cities area that includes Minneapolis. Those are 32% minority participation and 6% female participation. And the division monitors this workforce participation on projects based off of data submitted in certified payroll reports. So that's where we get the percentages that you're seeing. We closed 14 projects with workforce goals in the first quarter. These contracts totaled about 323,000 hours, and similar to the small business numbers, we see some promising early outcomes with about 81,600 hours worked by minority employees. This constitutes 25% participation, so that's a 4% increase over 2016 and actually also over 2015. And employees identifying as female worked about 17,900 hours. This comprises 6% female participation. So that's a 1% increase over 2016 and actually meets the city's goal for female workforce participation. And the other programs that we administer in addition to SUBP and workforce, affirmative action, Section 3, and prevailing wage requirements. In the first quarter of 2017, we approved 28 affirmative action plans. We received 2 Section 3 resident applications and recovered $1,308 in unpaid wages. And that concludes the presentation of data for the report. I did include in the linked report more detailed information on the division's work in the first quarter. And just wanted to, if you have questions about that, you can review that in more detail as well. I'm certainly available for questions. In addition, if the committee has any, overall the division has a high workload. We administer 5 different programs for the city that seek to increase participation and ensure that workers are paid fairly. The division is grateful for the continued support of city leadership, and we look forward as a division to continuing our progress to help create a more inclusive and equitable city. With that, I'm happy to answer any further questions. Otherwise, thank you for Mr. Chair, for the committee's time.
Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to the slide before this, if you would, please. On the second bullet there, received 2 Section 3 resident applications. What does that, I know what the Section 3 program is, but people have to apply to show that they live in the area? Is that what the...
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Madam President, thank you for the question. There are a series of requirements under Section 3, and they're based on income and demographic. And so when someone applies to those programs, they have to demonstrate that they meet the requirements for certification under Section 3. There's actually certification for both residents and businesses under Section 3. And these demonstrate resident applications. So
they would be people that were applying for a job, or I'm just not clear. Or is it that they are applying to be a business that is eligible to participate in Section 3?
Mr. Chair, Madam President, there is that. where they can apply as a business. These are resident applications, so they haven't necessarily applied for employment, but what they're applying for is to be given the Section 3 individual certification. That has implications for when contractors are working on HUD projects, if they
So they would
hire.
show, oh, okay, I
Yeah,
live in
it
a,
gives employers an
gotcha.
incentive to hire them, helps them
Okay.
be a little more marketable,
I gotcha.
essentially.
Okay, great, thank you.
Welcome.
Council members, any other questions? All right, seeing none, Mr. Skibby, thank you for the report. And with that, I will move to receive and file the Contract Compliance Division 2017 first quarter report. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. The last two items for discussion are the contracts with Pillsbury United Communities and the Native American Community Development Institute. And, these are kind of similar, so I'm just going to combine both of them together. At some points we will vote on them separately, but we will just combine them together as a discussion and have Ms. Archbold come up and give a short presentation, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Good afternoon. Would you like me to, Mr. Chair, just go through the
Sure.
list individually, or do you have a preference?
Whatever you'd like,
Okay.
however you'd like to present it.
Okay. Well, we can start with West Broadway. We have 6 awardees. The first is Broadway Vibrations and so the way that I'll walk through this is the title of the project, the lead person who submitted the proposal, and what organization they're from, and then who their collaborative partners are, and then the amount that they requested for funding and the amount that they were funded, or that they're proposed to be funded. And then if you have questions, I'm happy to take those. So the first is called Broadway Vibrations, and that is a proposal submitted by Adrian Doyle at Juxtaposition Arts, whose collaborative partners Twin Cities Rise and Hawthorne Crossing. They requested $28,000 and are to be funded I don't know what the word is, recommended to be funded $28,000. And their idea is to do creative placemaking and engagement activities on West Broadway to include psychological first aid, conflict de-escalation training. The next proposal is called the Big Dinner Party, and that is submitted by Marcus Carr of Youth Farm. His partners are the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition, along with Appetite for Change. Their proposal request was $36,440, and the review team recommends or would like to fund $55,000. So this is one proposal out of the 11 that has been funded at a higher amount because their proposal was very strong and it really resonated with the review team. They're going to hold a series of outdoor events that include arts, music, and youth will be planning and organizing these events. The target audience attendance will be 100 to 300 participants, so they're going to be very large community draws, and then they're going to do a series of additional community events along West Broadway, which they're working on right now because we suggested that we would fund them at a higher amount, so they're working on that. But they have some really great ideas that include youth that range from age 9 up through 25 that are participating in urban farming. The next proposal is Run and Shoot EBL that was submitted by Jamil Jackson of Change Equals Opportunity. His partner is Masjid An-Nur. Their proposal request was $81,000 and they're being funded $40,000 for the idea. It's a mentoring program that will that is through, uses basketball. And they're going to be doing community service in the community along West Broadway, getting out, meeting businesses, seeing how they can be a part of the positive activity on West Broadway and bring some positive activity there, doing some community service. They're also going to lead planning community-wide 3-on-3 basketball tournament, which would be the culmination of their mentoring program over the summer. The next program is called Man Up. That proposal was submitted by Corey Cross Dean of the Man Up Club, and his partners are Sammy's Avenue Eatery and the U.S. Bank on West Broadway. His proposal request was $49,802, and he's recommended for funding at $37,000. He also has a summer mentoring program, a youth leadership mentoring program that will engage with young men from North Minneapolis, that will also be working volunteering along West Broadway to do community service and participating along with businesses as well. And each of those 2 mentoring programs will have 15 youth, 15 young men. The next proposal is called Win Back the Community. That was submitted by Leslie Redmond. She is the vice chair of the NAACP. She has a number of community partners. Houston White Men's Room, Citywide Student Advisory Board, the NAACP Chair of the Youth Division, Aggies in Color, Counterspace Gallery, former Harrison Neighborhood Association, African American Democratic Caucus, Shiloh Temple International, and Cleaning for Change. Their proposal request was $48,560, and they were funded at $36,000. They have a number of initiatives and events that they will be working on, all of which include youth ambassadors who will be doing the programming, the organizing, the planning under the leadership of Mentor Team. They have 3 core initiatives along with a summer celebration that will take place along West Broadway, which the community at large will be invited to join. The first is called Cleaning for Change. The next is called Don't Complain, Activate, street entertainment, and a summer celebration. And youth will assist with hosting 4 additional events: a fashion show, art gallery, a skateboard competition, and a spoken word competition. Outreach for these events will take place along West Broadway and in partnership with the businesses and partners that they have in North Minneapolis. And the final idea is the West Broadway Community Patrol. That proposal was submitted by Meletta Kimmons of One Family, One Community. Their partner is Urban Youth Conservation. Their proposal request was $50,000 and were funded at $24,000. They will develop a staff safety patrol team that will include young adults on West Broadway, and that will be devoted to crime prevention and positive community engagement. The safety patrol team will bring a positive, visible presence to their engagement with West Broadway, with community and businesses along West Broadway. And right now, the patrols are planned to occur Thursday through Sunday from 4 to 8 p.m. So all of these engage youth, but 4 of the 5 very particularly have set numbers of youth that will be participating in this collaborative public safety strategies opportunity. One of the things that we heard from community through our engagement process was that youth don't have enough to do in the summer. They need activities to participate in, and part of the reason these were selected by the review teams was that they were very strong in engaging youth and bringing them to break down the silos that happen along with the relationships between businesses and visitors and other community along West Broadway. So I can move on. Do you have any questions for the West Broadway? Or
Why don't you move on to the next piece, and then we'll just take questions at the end.
Okay. So we'll move on to Little Earth. We have 5 projects that have been funded through that process. The first is called the Little Earth Mosaic Project. That was submitted by Candida Gonzalez and her partners at Good Space Mural. She's from Good Space Murals. Her partners are Little Earth Youth Development Center and the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Their proposal request is $42,275, and they were funded at $40,000. Their program includes 5 stipended youth leaders, and they will be doing Mosaic Camp over the summer. Some of those events will happen indoors, and weather permitting, they'll bring them outside so that they can activate spaces in a positive way. And that will include opportunities for youth, elders, those with disabilities, and other passerby to participate in the mosaicing that will be happening. The next program was submitted by Minneapolis PAL, and that one is the translation. I'm going to read the translation of what the Ojibwe language is Young Women Leading a Good Life. That was submitted by Officer Cheryl Lee Goodman of the Minneapolis Police Department. PAL is a 501c3, so they are not funded through the city's budgeting process. It's a separate entity. Their partners are the American Indian Center, Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center. Their proposal request was $43,875, and they were funded at $40,000. They're going to do a women's mentorship program that will support Native girls in making healthy and safe life choices. They'll be doing a lot of mentoring activities, sports, as well as a mind-body curriculum, which will include a summer trip to the Black Hills. The next project is the Little Earth Safe Zone. That was submitted by Frank Downwind of the Youth Development Center at Little Earth. His partners are the Barbara Schneider Foundation and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. His proposal request was $83,378 and funded at $65,000. The YDC, primarily their focus is going to be on extending the hours. There was a lot of desire to find ways to engage older youth at Little Earth, the older teens, and so they're going to be working to provide activities that will be a draw for the older youth, as well as having hours that will reflect the times that the older youth need some place to go. The next idea is called Little Earth Memorial Park. That was submitted by Jolene Jones of the Little Earth Residents Association. Her partners are the Little Earth of United Tribes Housing Corporation and the Minneapolis American Indian Center. Their proposal request was $79,752, and they were funded at $60,000. This one is a little bit different. It's renovating and installing a new playground. So on the property there, they have a playground that is in very, very poor condition that the children aren't able to use. It's also a deterrent from folks gathering in a positive way in that space. And so this is essentially a CEPTED strategy, so crime prevention through environmental design, which will deter criminal behavior through changing the space and the environment. And the final proposal is the Lake Street activation, and that was submitted by Allison Sharkey at the Lake Street Council, and her partner is the Division of Indian Work. Their proposal request was $15,000, and they're funded at $15,000. They have a series of events and activities that they will be doing around fitness, both on-site at Little Earth and outside of Little Earth, and that is also in response to some of the community conversations we had about oftentimes residents at Little Earth feel isolated and that they would like to have better connections with the community. So with that, that's the 11 proposals that were selected.
All right. So we'll do it like this. First, we'll take questions with regards to any of these proposals for Ms. Archbold. After that, I was contacted by some folks in the community who wanted to address the council, with regard to this. And so we'll take a few of those comments, and then after that, we will just have general comments, generally speaking, from any of the council members up here. So first and foremost, we'll take questions with regards to kind of the technical stuff that Ms. Archbold could answer. Does anybody have anything? Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess in the Broadway Vibrations grant request, there's a term used, psychological first aid / conflict de-escalation training. Do we know who's, I've never heard that term before, psychological first aid. Who's planning on doing that?
They'll be contracting with Resma Menachem.
I'm sorry, whom?
Resma Menachem. He does psychological first aid training with MPD. And
Okay.
I believe he's also part of the recast program.
Okay. And do me a favor and just later send me the
Okay.
name, email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions? Anything? Councilmember Quincy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Not really a question, I guess, but Ms. Archbold, if you could probably just help explain a little background. We went in detail individually on these award recipients. I wonder if you could spend just a few moments highlighting the process, what you're trying to accomplish. I see the scoring matrix, and then who is involved in making those decisions, and did the community feel like they had an input to this process? Did they understand why they were chosen or not chosen? And what are the measurements that we're trying to see at the end? What are the metrics that we're using to say, was this a successful investment or not?
Thank you.
Just kind of a high level thing.
Great. Mr. Chair, Councilmember Quincy. This collaborative public safety strategies really accomplishes two different things in one package. So we have the awardees, many of whom are here right now. And in addition to the funding that would be going out to the community directly, we've developed a process that hasn't been done anywhere else before around really working to engage community in a way, not rhetoric, but in a way that built the process from the first stage before we wrote anything down. And so we have provided, first, communities never had access to funding like this before in this type of a process. Our community also, the folks that participated had access to technical assistance to walk through the process. So we provided workshops and guidance on how to respond to the proposals to make it easier so that more folks could participate in the process. We also invited the community to participate in the selection process. And so the review teams consisted of some city staff from the health department and NCR, but also we opened it up to the community. And we didn't just open it up to the community, we brought the review sessions out to the community. So I think this is a great time to say thank you to the organizations that assisted us with providing space so that we could do that. Some of those locations were the Minnesota Chippewa Tribes Building, East Phillips Park, Little Earth, the Lyra Boardroom. On the north side, we had Neon and the public library. We also held community meetings at Shiloh and Naz and Knock. So there were a wide variety of spaces and places that community had access to participate in this process. But the community they were invited and they were able to participate in the selection process of scoring and reading the reviews.
Very good. Thank you. Obviously, it's very innovative. It must be because it's the only one out there.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make sure we spent some time talking about the process. So at our last committee meeting, the chair invited that as an agenda item when we talked through that process. But I thought it might be good to ground everybody's understanding of who is involved and what we're trying to achieve. And so thank you for accomplishing that. A great list of projects, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
So, Ms. Archbold, why was there a need for a 12% administration fee, for the fiscal agents? I mean, I just feel like that's way too much, within the context of, two different segments or two different parts of the city that are doing, projects, innovative projects necessarily, but I mean, 12%, I mean, that just seems a little bit hefty, I think.
Mhm.
So why was that, I guess, why was that done?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the collaborative public safety strategies process is more than just a grant process. It's more than just, and we're asking our fiscal agents to do more than just pass through the funds. We're asking them to provide additional staff time to provide a cohort type of model. So each of these awardees, the north side and the south side, they're going to meet regularly with their TA, with the fiscal agent provider, as well as with each other. So we want them to be able to meet and build off of one another and troubleshoot and help each other with the execution of their projects. And this isn't just about funding individual projects, but really bringing the community together around public safety and breaking down the barriers that there are. So there's a lot of one-off projects, and we want this to be seen as these are five great proposals from North Minneapolis, or 6 great proposals from North Minneapolis and 5 from Little Earth. And all of these people together have a really great energy. And we saw that through some of the proposal development workshops, that there's a big need for people to come together and a desire for them to do that. So our fiscal agents are going to provide that, as well as technical assistance for making sure that the programs are being executed well and on time, because these are really community-based efforts. So they're going to need a little bit more attention and time than a typical granting process.
Okay, and, with regards to the measurements, will we be receiving an accounting of, the money spent and also reports, the final reports, just to kind of let us know where the projects were, or how the projects affected these specific communities?
Mr. Chair, yes,
Okay, so it'll come through committee.
if you would like it to.
Sure, I would love that. Okay, any other questions? Council President Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it would be helpful, too, if we have this relationship with the fiscal agents, that we have something someplace that tells us exactly what that relationship is going to be, what the expectations are of the fiscal agent, if it's indeed more than just being the fiscal agent. We're looking at handing them a chunk of change, so it needs to be defined as to what their roles and relationships and responsibilities are, not just a comment. Thank you.
All right, thank Ms. Archbold. I will take some comments from the folks who came here with comments, and so if they want to step up. Okay. Yeah. Sir, if you wait a second, let me just get everyone up right in back of you, and then we can start that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So it's the 3 of you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. If you all can take about 3 minutes each, that'd be great. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to come to discuss and bring up some of the concerns about the process of this application for this grant. During the process of this application, I went to the workshop and I was approached.
Sir, can we start by just getting your name and your address, if that's okay?
My name's Lance Michael Lamont, 2404 Ogama Place, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55404.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I was approached during the workshop by Robert Lilligan from NACD for a partnership as a 501c3. And then I was advised by him to work with community leaders, pretty much people that are already established within the community, to partner with them. And my original idea was to do everything grassroots, pretty much have all residents pretty much just have nothing to do with the nonprofit organizations. But I took the professional advice to build off of the nonprofit organization already there. And then on the 25th and the 24th of May last month, the Friday and Thursday before the deadline, the Sunday deadline, I was dropped by all my partners that I built partnerships with. One of them was Frank Downwind, the other one was Robert Lilligan. He actually told me within a meeting that he advised me to drop my partnership with him and that he would not be a 501c3 fiscal agent for any of the applicants through this grant. And those are coming straight from his mouth. And I find it very concerning that he is the 501c3 agent when I was led to believe something else. And I do have also another big concern. I look at the grant and I see that there's not a single resident that's not affiliated with the LIRA or with the Little Earth nonprofit organizations that has been approved for a grant. It's our chair board, Jolene Jones, that was approved, and everyone else is a nonprofit organization. There's actually not one single just Little Earth resident. And my biggest thing with the proposal I had was it's pretty much to pay our young men in the community to do gardening, to get produce, to do giveaways and have feasts within the community, and to do pretty much ceremonies, and to do Little Earth patrols and pretty much community cleanup. And that was pretty much to get the young men off the streets and to show them that we see the value in them and that we will stifle them to invest in the community because we believe if we invest in the men and they'll invest in the community. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Man, I'm really nervous. I never did this. My name is Cindy Wright. I'm a Little Earth resident. I've been a Little Earth resident for myself, 13 years. I've worked various places within Little Earth, being janitor up to the gardener for 6 years now. A lot of big organizations came and left. I'm not sure what's really going on because I do not want to disrespect any of my elders or the youth programs. I'm sorry. I'm just really nervous. I never had to do this. But like, I don't know what's going on with like all the money and stuff, but a lot of us residents are been into this, some of them programs for years that been to many trainings, know a lot about certain stuff, but within these organizations, they come in and I don't think they really look at us or value us as a resident. Or, I mean, they're like, well, if you don't have a certain something, you know, I don't think that's fair when people put their blood, sweat, and tears into the programs that are there. I'm just really nervous. Give me a minute. Super nervous. Whew. But again, I don't want to disrespect none of my elders or whatever they're trying to do. Oh, I can't even do this. But the garden in the back, I think us being Native American needs to be addressed bigger than what it is now. Losing our kids. Our youth program is a big part of our program. I don't want to step on no toes. But also, there's a lot of stuff that's not being addressed over there that should be, that maybe could be. And I'm not sure why I'm up here like this, because a lot of the people I work with, I'm not understanding. See, again, so I don't know what they're trying to do, but I know I need some help in the back. So that farm holds all of us together. If we put all our kids in it, our elders, there's elders know that I put a lot in, I have a lot of the youth. I mean, not, majority of the older ones I can't pay. A lot of the babies, I have a lot of the babies back there all day, all night. When I did do the program, s'mores out of my own pocket. Popcorn, salsa days, man, we have a blast. And when you get them, pull them in when they're little like that, we shouldn't have a problem talking to them when they're older and doing major programs when they're older. They should already, have that intuition in them. And I don't know, I've been doing it for about 6 years now. I love what I'm doing. I love the babies. I truly do love my community. Again, with the drugs and some of the programs we do need. So I don't want to step on nobody's toes.
Ms. Wright,
That's how I feel.
if you can wrap it up.
That's how I feel.
Thank you so much. Okay.
My name is James Cross, Natives Against Heroin. I think the grantees, yeah, it's all good, but, we're missing the part of gang shootings, violence, drugs, and yet the ones that are doing the work out here, we ain't getting no help. We can go places where no one else can go. We got the respect out here. I got the resources, but yet I've been doing this for 3 years now, and we ain't gonna get no money. And I see these grantees that got the bill. Yeah, you're doing with the young, which is good, making the place look good. But yet, where's the money for the people that are fighting the gang violence? We're fighting that drug epidemic in our community. It's like he's kind of saying they're washing their hands in the same pot, getting that money. But when somebody's really doing the work, there ain't no money out here to help conquer this. And our numbers are the highest anywhere. 25th and a half Street, Ogama. It's the highest shooting through Minneapolis. But yeah, we can't get no help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon.
I have to jokingly tell you, that was quick. I mean, he didn't even hit a minute, I think. But thank you,
Can
sir.
I
I mean,
have
but
his
you
time
said so
then?
much. You said so much, though. I appreciate
I'd
that.
gladly take his time then. No, good afternoon.
But you get your 3 minutes only, though.
Thank you for the reminder. You must know who I am then.
Yeah. If you
Carrie,
could, yes.
Carrie Day, Aspinwall. I serve as our community special projects consultant, doing some work currently with Little Earth on this collaborative, as well as a couple of other initiatives through the city. I just wanted to really mirror and support the three previous folks that came forward. Little Earth has lots of needs. This is a new and innovative process, as you all have acknowledged. Typically, residents and stakeholders aren't engaged to this depth. Do they have the capacity to understand what these processes are, what they mean, how they're ranked, how they're scored, how the decisions are made? When you place this much money into the hands of a community that doesn't have that type of capacity, they're going to say, why not me? This is where I live. Why not me? James eloquently pointed out the east side of the Little Earth campus has Elaine Stately Drive. We have got the second highest crime rate in the precinct, out of the third precinct that runs along that very drive, and the highest crime rate across the city in our little community, all on that east side. The Memorial Park has been the site of many, many shootings because of the dilapidated condition of the park. It used to be a pool. I don't know if any of you remember that, but it used to be a pool. We covered it up, put cement in there because, again, people were afraid to come out and watch your kids at the pool because of everything that was going on. It continued even after the installation of the equipment that's there. They can still get clear shots, still chase their friends, still buy their drugs, all with that Elaine Stately Drive as the in and out thoroughfare. I spoke with our off-duty police officers, our hired off-duty police officers through Little Earth, and our regular beat officers, our native officers that we have out there. All of these projects, all of the ideas that came forward are significant to each one that presented those ideas and lifted them up and took that chance to put it forward. I think this is a start. I think that the projects that have been funded are worthy of that funding. It's a short period. I've said it publicly and I'll say it again. This is the shortest, quickest, most challenging process that I've been through. I'm not a grant writer by trade. I mean, that isn't my main gig. But I can tell you, as somebody who knows our city process, this was challenging. And to try and bring our people up, to bring them to capacity, to put those ideas into a process that you all would understand and be able to fund was challenging. And so I think the frustration that you're hearing is also a great opportunity. As you know, Little Earth has had its challenges over the last 9 to 10 months. We still lack leadership. We still yet to find our way. I'm completely confident in our election of our new resident association board. They're standing up. They're taking responsibility for which they have authority. We've done our best, and I've worked with them to try and do community engagement. We're also in a process right now where we've developed an $850,000 burn grant, which we will find out if we get funded in October. But just through that process, we've learned how to be very strategic with our community engagement, and we hope that this type of resident action continues. This money is just a start. I hope you continue to think about us when there are funds available, and that we reach out, because we have a community that is now paying attention and can respond. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, Ms. Archibald, we've asked questions. If any council member has questions, we'll pull you up. But I'm just going to open it up to the council members here for questions, comments, anything like that. Councilmember Cano, thank you for being here. And I know you're not a part of this committee, but thank you for being here addressing this specific issue. And let me just put a disclaimer first, not for you, but for myself. Typically when we have these meetings, they're not public hearings necessarily, but chairs have the discretion to allow for public comments on specific issues of interest to the community. And so in this situation, I was asked beforehand for that courtesy, and so that's what we provided. And so that's why, we had community members who, came up and spoke. And so I just wanted to let the general public know that that was the case. Councilmember Cano, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to address you all as colleagues on this issue, and as well as the audience members here today. I don't sit on this committee, but I wanted to be a part of this conversation because our office spends a significant amount of time and resources addressing the crime and safety issues in the 9th Ward. So I want to kind of take a step back in terms of the genesis of this particular effort. And, I want to thank the mayor's office and Nicole for ushering these pool of resources through the last couple of months and maybe a little over a year, as connected to a conversation that the mayor had with residents at Little Earth, where we discussed a lot of these issues and the need to have more money invested at addressing the root causes of some of these activities was expressed. And then, it moved forward as a proposal, and the council approved this proposal. And so we have now these resources before us that we can put out into the community's hands to lead on this issue with us. Some of the things that I'll be sharing today are, general concerns about the process, and Nicole and I, you and I have been talking about these things for a while, so none of this is really new. And so I just want to say that some of the things that are, some of the projects that have been identified as the things that, the selection committee would like to award, to me, miss the mark a little bit in terms of incentivizing, uplifting, and supporting new innovative ideas to address some of the pervasive challenges that we have in our neighborhoods. And so while these groups and organizations and ideas are very worthwhile of funding, and they should get more funding, and I think that there's been a significant philanthropic investment in some of these efforts, such as mural projects that have already happened at Little Earth, women's groups that have already been getting together at the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center and at the Minneapolis American Indian Center. We have the activities from the Youth Development Center at Little Earth that have been supported over the years and perhaps, more than a decade or so. So those projects are really good and they're needed. And so what's difficult about this conversation is that we have to kind of choose our priorities and really signal a direction for innovative ideas where we are engaging folks in a different way that is perhaps a little bit more upfront about the issues that are happening in our neighborhoods and a little bit deeper in terms of the relationships that are being brought forward and the people that are being uplifted to lead on these conversations. And so, so for me, one of the challenges in this was exactly the process, and I think some people have talked about that today. In that, I think there was a window of maybe a week or a week and a half where people could submit their ideas to be considered as part of the selection. How the selection committee came together was also a bit of a challenge. And I just wish we would have had more time to be able to do this together, because at some point, I felt like it was a rushed process that we could have put more thought into. And so, so that's kind of one of the things that concerns me in terms of, are we identifying the right set of partners to really help us take this conversation to the next level, because some of the things that we're saying we want to fund through the selection committee, who is bringing this forward for our approval. So I realize fully that this approval is not yet secured and that it has to go through final stages. This notion of innovative ideas is really important, and I would like to, I guess, say that my comments are more targeted to the South Minneapolis efforts. I don't know much about the North Minneapolis efforts, and I look to my colleagues who live and work in that area to really lead that conversation. But in terms of the work that needs to happen in our Phillips neighborhood and in the Little Earth area, I do feel like we're missing an opportunity to uplift the voices that are doing the work on the front lines in new ways that should be getting supported in this, what I would call, innovation grant, which is really about incentivizing these new relationships and ideas to dig deeper on this front. And so I remember having a crime meeting at the gym of Little Earth after there was a couple of shootings there on a weekend, on a Friday night, early Saturday morning. And some of the people who are here today were a part of that meeting. And we filled the room with, probably 50 people. An overwhelming majority of them were women. And the question really was, where are the young men that are impacted by the violence, and where are the young men who are, perhaps intertwined in this web of violence? And so the question really was, how can we align resources to empower and engage the young men in our communities who need to be supported to leave the drug economy, to leave the gun violence economy, and transition into an economy that is sustainable for them and their families, so they don't have to resort to these alternative methods of providing a living for themselves, their families, and for proving their manhood. And so, so I feel like we're not really digging where we need to be digging with these dollars. We've seen a lot of murals happen in this community. We've seen a lot of women's groups happen here, and that are well supported by other nonprofits. And I'm left with this unmet need to really see the young men who are actively participating in these challenging circumstances to speak up about their own realities, to talk about the real solutions that they need to end the violence, and for us to sort of bravely take that risk with them, because it is sort of an experiment of breaking these cycles of violence and an oppression and exploitation. So at this time, I feel a little ambivalent about what's being presented to us because, like Cindy said, these are groups that are doing great work that should be supported, but at the same time, the intent and the goal and the vision for these dollars, to me, is not properly reflected in the set of awardees that have been suggested by the selection committee. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm feeling torn about this. I'm feeling like I wish we had more money to go around to do more of the work that is needed. And I'm curious about whether other council members think about, what we do with this and kind of where we go next. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Right. Well, I'm going to put some comments out there as well, and I'm going to basically piggyback on Council Member Cano's comments. With regards to just this process in itself, I think it was such a rush process that, it really incentivized or rewarded professional grant writers versus, community members. And, we keep on talking about this whole collaborative being very community driven. And I think we missed the mark on that quite a bit. And I think, at least on the council level, I felt like the process wasn't very transparent. The council approval process, we kind of just were all over the place about that. And, I think that, I wanted to say first and foremost that this is the first time that we're doing it, and we're going to have some bumps along the road, and hopefully we'll improve for next year if this comes up again next year. But again, just this whole thing about making it a community-driven process, for community. I feel like we missed that, and I don't know how we missed that, but that was kind of just the part that just was disappointing for me. When we talk about just all these proposals, to Councilmember Cano's points, they're very worthwhile, but I would say, just on the whole, for myself, a little bit underwhelming. And I would just say that within the context of, we look at this and, the two keywords that really play out for me are one, community, but two is public safety. And when I look at these proposals, I'm kind of missing the public safety part. And, Mr. Ross, who showed up a little bit earlier, talked about issues that, are related to public safety, violence, drugs, guns, gangs. I'm not seeing this direct connection with the proposals that are there. And so, those are kind of just my comments with regards to just, how we've moved forward with this. At this point, though, it just seems like, maybe to use, a different word, but, I'm maybe a little bit indifferent to it too. But, I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope that, this first year we will learn and we will be better for the following years if this does come up. And so I will throw it out there like that, and we'll just see how it goes. But I think for me, at least on the West Broadway proposals, my thing is, we put $250,000 out there. To me, measurable outcomes are that the number of shootings that happen up there go down, the number of drug deals that happen up there go down, or the number of drug dealing period up on the West Broadway corridor goes down. Any number of those things that are good indications that, we are improving public safety. That's the important part about this. And, to be honest with you, $250,000 is not a lot of money to, make a big dent, but, to see at least a dent and to see that dent be measurable, that's the important part. I imagine, it'd be the same for the Little Earth area as well, is that we want to see those dents that really make a difference in public safety because, people deserve it. People want to live in places that are safe. And so that's a part that is important for me. And, I'd like to see that in the future in terms of how we do things. Really just the goal is not to fund projects that are really worthwhile projects. Every single one of these projects is worthwhile. They deserve funding. But within the context of what we're doing here, which is public safety related and community related, do they really fit that? And I think, that's the part that is difficult for me to swallow. But, I will just say that, and I will see if any of my colleagues have anything else to say. All right. Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really glad we're having this discussion, and I look forward to working with Councilmember Cano and trying to, further this discussion. I have actually a little bit of a different take than my colleague, my North Minneapolis colleague, because I do think some of the projects that we are being recommended for funding hit on what is, I think, a real challenge for West Broadway, which I have actually just today heard described as a battleground for gangs and guns, a drug market for the suburbs, and a powder keg. When I heard Carrie Day Aspinwall talking about Little Earth and the rate of criminal activity there, we have a parallel in North Minneapolis on West Broadway, our largest commercial corridor. And I think some of these activities really do reflect what needs to happen, which is that good people are on West Broadway. And young people are involved in doing some of the things that make our commercial corridor look attractive. I'm really interested in the youth patrols because I think that that's one thing that community members have talked to us about over the years, not just this program, but other engagements through the years that we've had with the community. The other thing that I think is important, is what does our avenue look like? And so beautification and paying attention to what the avenue looks like is really important to give people a positive view of the community. And then that positive view gives them the confidence to, again, be the good people on West Broadway. Because it's a challenge for people. If you were to ask a parent, do you want your kid to go to the let me see what I can see here, the music festival that's going to be at Hawthorne Crossings, which is like the biggest kind of space that we're in the area we're talking about. Parents would be challenged to say, oh yeah, go ahead, because it isn't safe. It isn't safe. And so I think we need to look at what's recommended here, and then also see, if there are other things that we can address to increase the safety so that this portion of, again, this commercial, the most important commercial street in North Minneapolis is safe for everybody, so that people feel comfortable going there, comfortable celebrating, comfortable shopping, and all that sort of thing. And I don't see this fully fulfilled here, not that I expect it to be in a new initiative, but I think we also have to think about that bigger picture. But I will compliment people because I do think that they've hit on some of the high notes of what people have identified as challenges. And again, we need to have the good people on West Broadway. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments? So, I guess for myself, with both of these, we'll address each of them individually, but, I believe they're both going to be referred to Ways and Means. And, I'm going to make a motion for item number 5, which is the contracts with Pillsbury United Communities and Area Partners, West Broadway Collaborative Public Safety Strategies for just no recommendation moving forward to Ways and Means. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I will do the same thing with item number 6, which is a contract for Native American Community Development Institute, Little Earth and surrounding area partners for collaborative public safety strategies. And I will move for no recommendation to be referred to Ways and Means. Any discussion? Right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. And with that, I believe we are done with our business, and so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you so much.